Hello everybody and welcome back to Screen Stars, and welcome to my review for the 2019 Rambo sequel, Rambo Last Blood, a film that is directed by Adrian Grunberg and it stars Sylvester Stallone, Paz Vega and Yvette Monreal. Now this is a film, if you've been following the channel, I've been building up to. I've reviewed all the other Rambo films prior to this one. And it's actually got me really quite hyped for this film. Really looking forward to it. I've been to see it now, and I'll give you my verdict on it shortly, but I'll give you a little bit on what this film is about first. And this film focuses on Sylvester Stallone's character, obviously John Rambo. Now we see at the end of the last film, Rambo, that he ended up heading home to his father's ranch, and this is where this film picks up 10 years later. He has had 10 years of reasonable peace and tranquility. He's been working and living on this farm, raising horses and cattle, and his Mexican housekeeper and their daughter have been her granddaughter have been keeping Rambo company, and he's essentially raised this girl Gabrielle as his own, and he loves her very deeply. And essentially Gabrielle, this young Mexican girl, was abandoned by her father many years previously, and she has been given a tip as to where her father might be in Mexico, and she desperately wants to go and find out why her father abandoned her. And Rambo advises her against it because he knows what kind of person her father was, and she doesn't listen. She's young and desperate to see her father, and she heads off on her own to Mexico and ends up getting in a situation where she is abducted by a Mexican drug cartel, which then prompts Rambo to head off down to Mexico to mount a rescue attempt. Right, that's essentially the story that we get here with this film. Now, you may or you may not know that this storyline, this Mexican storyline, for the most part was going to be the last Rambo film, the film that we got in 2008 where he was in Burma. This film where he goes to Mexico was going to be that film, because the idea was pitched to Stallone at the time, and he liked the idea, but he just didn't think at that point in Rambo's life he would have made it back to the US yet, so he wrote the Burma storyline. However, they've obviously revisited this Mexico storyline because it makes sense now he's back in the US. And I've got to tell you, I absolutely thoroughly enjoyed this film. I thought it was really well made. It was respectful to the franchise, respectful to the character, even though I didn't like some of the things that happened in the film. I thought it was true to the character and true to the franchise, which I applaud Stallone and others for. The action here and the violence is, if you remember what the violence was like in Rambo in 2008, very realistic. Well, this is almost like a cross between that realistic violence and the cartoon violence in the other films, and they've like combined it to create this hugely hyper violent action film that, I mean, I'm not kidding, the last 25 minutes when he takes on this Mexican drug cartel is edge of the seat stuff, wildly entertaining and absolutely brutal beyond belief, and I really enjoyed that part of it. Some would argue that maybe the first 30 minutes is too much of a slow build, but you could argue that with some of the other Rambo films, especially the last one in 2008. But I really liked it. It showed this new life that John Rambo was living on this ranch, and he was, even though he'd built all these underground caverns and he was essentially living down there because he wasn't comfortable in the house, so he was he never obviously really felt at home there. He managed to have 10 years of relative peace and happiness raising this this girl Gabrielle as his own. He even says in the film, "I see you as my daughter," and you get to see that for half an hour or so, a little bit longer, of those dynamics and the character development and the transition from who he is now. And he actually says in the film, I'm not like that anymore. I am still like how I used to be. I just keep a lid on it every day. I try my best to keep a lid on it. So he's obviously fighting hard to keep the rage down, and you get that very clearly in the film. And then when he goes up against this Mexican drug cartel, when he is unleashed, and it doesn't happen, like I say, until about 3/4 of the film in, maybe a little bit less, the full John Rambo. Oh my god, he's brutal and uncompromising in a way that I don't think I've seen in previous films, because they do something in this film that won't please audiences, but it's absolutely true to the character, and it's kind of heartbreaking, and you kind of wish they didn't do it, but you understand the reasons that they do it, because it pushes Rambo so far over the edge. His humanity is gone completely. And what he does to this Mexican drug cartel, especially when they follow him back to his ranch, is something to behold, I would say. Now I'm going to score this an 8 out of 10. My gut reaction is to score it 8 out of 10, even though I want to score it more, but I want to see it a couple of times more before I really make that judgment. I think it's as strong as certainly the last one, even though I gave that an 8.5 out of 10. But it's the first time I've seen it. Yeah, there are some little flaws here and there. There's a journalist in the film played by Paz Vega who helps Rambo out at one point in Mexico, and that kind of felt forced. Like I say, the pacing at the first 30-40 minutes might bother some people, and there's a couple of other bits and pieces, but I think it's a really strong addition to the Rambo franchise. I'm not going to lie, I thoroughly enjoyed it. And for those out there who are skeptical of this film, remember how skeptical you were of the last one in 2008, because that was 20 years after the last Rambo. So this is 10 years or 11 years after the last Rambo film in 2008, and this is top quality stuff. I think Stallone has delivered here a really top-notch action film, and for someone of his age to do that and to make it completely believable, and he really does, I think you've got to give him some credit for that. So I do recommend it if you're a fan of the Rambo franchise. I don't think you're going to be disappointed. It might not give you everything you want, it doesn't give you the ending that you want, but we're never going to get a happy ending, I don't think. If you analyse all the endings from all the Rambo films, we've never got a happy ending. The happiest ending we ever got was in the last one, when you saw him going home. So yeah, thanks for watching, everybody. Of course I will see you next time on Screen Stars.